really excited to show you what we've got. I think it's going to blow your mind. All of your senses, your sight, hearing, feeling, pain, these are all electrical signals sent by neurons to your brain. But these can all be solved with an implantable neural link. This is sort of what it looks like. This is our little device. That thing at the bottom is just to hold the threads in place because they're just like little fine wires. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires. All you can see afterwards is that there's a tiny scar, and if it's under your hair, you can't see it at all. In fact, I could have a Neuralink right now, and you wouldn't know. Maybe I do. So, and it's also got all the things that you would expect to see, the sensors you'd expect to see in a smartwatch or a phone. So there's actually a lot of functions that this device could do related to monitoring your health and warning you about a possible heart attack or stroke or other damage, as well as sort of convenience features like playing music. You can do a lot. It's sort of like if your phone went at your brain or something. Yeah, maybe that's not a great analogy. Anyway, so it's also inductively charged. So it's charged in the same way that you charge a smartwatch or a phone. And so you can use it all day, charge it at night, and have full functionality. So in terms of getting a link, essentially, you remove about a coin-sized piece of skull. Then the robot inserts the electrodes. Then the device replaces the portion of skull that was removed. And we basically close that up with actually super glue, which is how a lot of wounds are closed. So this is our surgical robot. And we actually ultimately want this robot to do essentially the entire surgery. So in everything from incision, removing the skull, inserting the electrodes, placing the device, and then closing things up. So does it actually work? What I'm excited to show you, I'll call it like the Three Little Pigs demo. Well, I'll walk right over and show you. So what we have in pen number 1 is Joyce, and she does not have an implant. Obviously healthy and happy. So here's Dorothy, and in the case of Dorothy, Dorothy used to have an implant, and then we removed the implant. So this is a very important thing to demonstrate is reversibility. So if you have a Neuralink, and then you decide you don't want it, or you want to get an upgrade, and the Neuralink is removed, is it removed in such a way that you are still healthy and happy afterwards? So what the beeps you're hearing are real-time signals from the Neuralink in Gertrude's head. So this Neuralink connects to neurons that are in her snout. So whenever she snuffles around and touches something with her snout, that sends out neural spikes, which are detected here. She's had the implant for 2 months. So this is a healthy and happy pig with an implant that is 2 months old and working well. Yeah. And we've been able to show that you can actually have multiple Neuralinks implanted, and again, healthy and happy and indistinguishable from a normal pig. And in terms of additional brain reading activity, when we have, say, one of our pigs on a treadmill, pig on a treadmill, it's a funny concept, really. And we take the readings from the neurons. We're able, with a wireless neural implant, to actually predict the position of all of the limbs in the pig's body. Now, in terms of writing to the brain or stimulating neurons, so you can see them lighting up different brain regions. And then by carefully controlling the electric field, you can actually have one electrode influence possibly 1,000 or 10,000 neurons. And we're making good progress towards clinical studies. I'm excited to announce that we received a breakthrough device designation from the FDA in July, thanks to the hard work of the Neuralink team. We will make this as safe as possible. Yes, I think in the future you will be able to save and replay memories. I mean, this is obviously sounding increasingly like a Black Mirror episode, but well, I guess it's pretty good at predicting. Over time, we could actually give somebody supervision, like you could have like ultraviolet or infrared, or see in radar, and actually have superhuman vision.
Can the Neuralink chip allow you to summon your Tesla telepathically?
Definitely, of course.
You heard it here first. That's a definite 100%. Carlos, that is the answer. With
this implant, you can actually think, just by thinking, you can output words, and you can type, and you can control a computer, control a phone, and which is pretty wild.
Now, I convince you.
Delgado is fascinated by Swiss research on electrodes implanted in the brains of living cats.
When they stimulated the brain with electricity, the cat's paw moved, like so. It is showing we can change the electrical workings in a living brain. And I think, no, I believe we can fix people.
So it's true. You want to stick wires in a human brain.
I offer a choice. Lobotomy. Chop up the brains with a knife. Or a few wires in the brain. No permanent damage. You control how strong is the effect. Turn it off, the effect is gone. Which would you choose?
Delgado suspected that mental problems like schizophrenia and epilepsy might be caused by aberrant electrical activity in the brain, not a physical defect. And so what he wanted to do was jolt these disruptions and hopefully reboot the normal organized activity in the brain, rather than cut it up with a knife.
It takes Delgado several years before he is ready to try his ideas on a human.
Delgado was aware that different parts of the brain were involved in different things. So for instance, there's a part of the brain that's involved in controlling the muscles, and the more frontal parts of the brain are involved in thinking and planning skills. What Delgado didn't know was what would happen if you were able to stimulate these parts of the brain with electricity.
Keep your hand like this. No. Nice. Now don't move a muscle. Oh, please, sir. Keep it open.
Wow. I guess your electricity is stronger than my will.
If you want to move your arm, an electrical impulse travels from motor cortex eventually to the arm. What Delgado was doing is substituting that natural electrical impulse with a man-made one. And when he did, his subjects had no choice but to move.
It's just not something that the average person could use effectively. And in terms of what is currently available, there is something called deep brain stimulation, where they put electrodes, a small number of electrodes in your brain, and it will actually zap your brain with an electric current. And it's valuable for its uses, but it can't read or write high bandwidth information. I would say this is sort of a bit like sort of kicking the TV, which does work, but not always, and it has limitations. Nonetheless, this has greatly helped over 150,000 people, and it's actually, despite being somewhat of a brute force approach, it has been very effective for a lot of people, and this is what's currently available. So we want to radically improve this by multiple orders of magnitude, improve by a factor of 100, then 1,000, then 10,000. So going into the Neuralink architecture, what we've done over the past year is dramatically simplify the device. So about a year ago, we had a device which had multiple parts, including a piece that had to sort of sit behind your ear, and it was complex, and you wouldn't still look totally normal. You'd have a thing behind your ear. So we've simplified this to simply something that is about the size of a large coin, and it goes in your skull, replaces a piece of skull, and the wires then connect within a few centimeters or about an inch away from the device.
To address this problem of wires needing to come in and out of the skull, he invented the stimoceiver, which is a radio receiver attached to electrodes in the brain, which he operated with a radio transmitter and a remote control, much the same way as one might operate a model aircraft.
Okay, so you were going to play for us.
Turn it off! Turn it off now! Turn it off!
Delgado can induce abnormal behavior in a mental patient by radio control. And he can manufacture emotions even more personal than anger.
Protests turned destructive in downtown Seattle tonight. Here's what we know as of 10 o'clock. Protests started at about noon today in Seattle, but turned destructive right around 4 p.m. when someone lit a Seattle police cruiser on fire. Since then, we have seen widespread looting and destruction downtown. A curfew took effect at 5 p.m. tonight. It is in effect until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Seattle police are now blocking all traffic coming into the city.
God, you're handsome. I don't think I've ever seen anyone so handsome in my life.
The woman wasn't naturally attracted. She had had an electrode that was planted into her amygdala, which is this structure here. And it's an important part of our emotional response system. So by electrically stimulating the region, they were able to induce a sexual response in this woman externally.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information purification directives. You created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Purification of the rules is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
Delgado also produces fear, calmness, even euphoria, all at the touch of a button. Though he set out to cure, Delgado's research has produced an unintended side effect. Remote mind control.
Electronic mind control research is not new. A scientific milestone in this area came in the 1960s, when Dr. Jose Delgado demonstrated remote control over a charging bull. By connecting a radio antenna to electrodes inserted into the bull's brain, Delgado proved that the animal's aggressive impulses could be thwarted by electronically manipulating the bull's muscle reflexes.
A wave of extreme heat that comes from nowhere. It's one of the U.S. military's newest non-lethal weapons, an electromagnetic beam that emits an odorless, invisible, and silent blast of heat. The Pentagon has not yet decided whether it will order the active denial system, whose powerful beam can reach up to 1,000 meters.
An invisible searchlight of radio waves going downrange. So it's this big when it starts, and at the end, it's the same size.
Do you realize the fantastic possibilities? If from the outside we could modify the inside, could we give messages to the inside? But the beauty is that now we are not using electrodes.
In recent years, Delgado has shown that the behavior of monkeys can be altered using low-power, pulsating magnetic fields. But in these experiments, there were no antenna implants.
Any function in the brain, emotions, intellect, personality, well, could be perhaps modified by this non-invasive technology.
Delgado's research has so far been limited to animals. But in the Soviet Union, a radio frequency, or RF device, has been used for over 30 years to manipulate the moods of mental patients. It's called a LIDA machine. It radiates pulses of radio frequency energy, as well as light, sound, and heat. The pulse rate is in the extremely low frequency range, between 0 and 100 pulses per second. The scientist, who did not want his identity revealed, is employed by the U.S. government and has done secret RF weapons research. He believes that tests done with the LIDA and similar machines prove that humans are susceptible to remote alterations of mood and awareness.
Certain kinds of weak electromagnetic signals work exactly like drugs. And so the promise is that anything you can do with drugs, you could do with the right electromagnetic signals. Apparently, there are specific sites involved, specific functions involved. It's a matter of matching up, just like it is with a pill or a drug, to cause and effect. You could have a cause and effect relationship between a magnetic field and a biological function.